Yeah, so that again is from the Kennedy Center. We talk about the 5 skills and tools of the actor, but then I transform that into performing arts, that you have the control of your body and you have control of your mind and you have imagination, but you also develop these cooperative skills and collaboration, that you can work as a team. And we actually build, practice working in small groups, because how many times are employers given out, this department will do this and such a task. And that's, if you can't work in a group, but we don't really have a structure to practice that. But the performing arts are perfect for it.
Jenn, it's so great to meet you here on Zoom.
It's wonderful to meet you as well. And I'm excited to interview.
Yeah, me too. And I'm so fascinated by what you wrote on your profile on LinkedIn. And this is why I really wanted to talk to you. And I've also seen that you play many instruments. And that's also something that I'm so fascinated by.
Well, thanks. I began piano at a very young age because I was driving my parents nuts.
Oh, really?
I wouldn't leave it alone, so they decided to get some structure for me. I started when I was 3. I was in a very small town, so I was really fortunate to have great resources.
And that's also something interesting, because sometimes you think these small towns, there's not many possibilities. But what was it about the piano that fascinated you?
I grew up with a very musical family. My mom and both my parents actually were very active musicians. They met in high school choir, and my father played piano and organ. My mother is still quite an accomplished singer, and guitar. She played 12-string guitar. And so it was just something I was always around. And the great big looming instrument in the living room just held my attention.
Oh, okay. And were you always good at practicing?
No, absolutely not. I didn't really develop a passion for playing the piano. Probably my middle school years, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And then I practiced to a point of annoyance. I was practicing 3 and 4 hours a day. And then went to college to play piano, and found that my skills were poorly lacking. My discipline was not as developed as I thought.
Okay, but as what would you say? Why did you lose interest when you were younger? In practicing, was it because of a specific teacher, or what did you need? Do you think at that point?
The tumult of growing up. My parents had gone through a divorce, so there were some changes in the environment, and I started to play more by ear at that point when I didn't have a piano teacher, and actually really appreciate that I have that skill now. Mm-hmm. So, excuse me, that's the fun of being on a phone. I apologize. But then I was able to get back into a structured lesson routine, and really blossomed there in like those middle school years.
Well, I spoke to a young musician a few years ago, and he was actually self-taught from the start, and then he started playing, started taking lessons. He seems to have a very free perspective on playing. He sort of loves to improvise, and he's just doing things that's a bit out of the ordinary. That you don't hear classical, really classical musicians do. And I always wondered if it was because at the point that he taught himself, that you sort of build a confidence or a type of freedom, that you learn to use the instrument without being very much structured.
I think that's really interesting because I find that to be very true in my guitar classes. That if I put the guitar in their hands and teach just the very beginning essential skills, and if a student will pick it up, I mean, they sometimes they just have that fire that lights, and then they go and pursue and they inquire on their own. You know, that personal inquiry and studying on their own is so much faster and more efficient, I think, too, when the student wants to play, when they're playing what they want and they're doing it at their own speed, which is definitely how I was. Wanted to go faster than my music classes.
Oh,
And
really?
so, oh yeah, yep. And I've got quite a few students who have done that on their own too, kind of independent study.
And sometimes also, like you say, you hear of musicians who, at a point, lost interest, or not lost interest, but it's sort of it halted a little bit and then picked up again. But do you think that we should leave students to go at their own pace? So that it's not. There shouldn't be that, oh, you have to be this age to be that level, and that age to be that level, and so on.
Well, there's merits, right, to having structure and to having a routine and having discipline. Um, it really depends on where the development is of that student. Are they mature enough to practice with a purpose? And
Yeah.
I think once we instill that idea of this is the goal, and however long it takes you to get it is, the speed will work. And that really holds true in anything musical. We were just going to do it again, and we're going to do it again. So.
And then you started playing other instruments as well.
Mm-hmm. So, like I said, my small town, I was so fortunate to have access resources to start playing in band, and picked up the alto saxophone, which many consider the easiest instrument to play, and just branched out from there. Played all three saxes in high school, and then also played the trumpet. Taught myself the trumpet because I needed to my first year of teaching. And then when my children were born, my daughter was very interested in the trombone, and I couldn't really support her if I didn't know what she was doing. So I learned the trombone.
Wow.
It would be very difficult for me to play along with the band on the trombone, but I could at least get her started. But pretty much everything else I can do. My biggest deficiency are the strings. I never got violin training, and self-teaching on the violin is pretty difficult.
I can imagine, yes. And
I would
so,
love to.
but do you think by playing different instruments that you sort of get the skill to then teach yourself?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, everything I learned in piano applied to everything else. And especially collegiately when I was singing, the being able to play the piano accompaniment or play out the parts, as a section leader, to be able to reinforce everything we were doing vocally. That was huge.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you said that musicians or artists should, I'll take it artists, but musicians should not be scared to make mistakes.
Exactly. Right. If we can't hear it can't hear your mistake, we won't know it's a mistake. So, and sometimes the best mistakes turn into what we need. That, the trial and error of working it out sometimes reveals new solutions.
And maybe it's also the fact that some people tend to be so overly perfectionistic that it prevents them from really daring to do something.
I've seen that as well. Perfection is the kids who are very linear and very organized, which I've never been. But those, the very structured linear thinking can a lot of times prevent musical moments because those mistakes just hamper production.
And how do you handle children like that in music situations?
With humor,
Okay.
I try to, we definitely laugh it off and say like, okay, well, we're not going to do that again. Let's see what we are going to do. Or, I definitely try to lighten up the mistakes. I think that our children are under so much pressure already for achievement that we have to keep an open mind about everything. Like as a small flat, and it should have been a natural. That's not going to be the end of the world. Let's just fix it and move on.
And do you at the school where you are teaching, what is the music situation there? Are a lot of children playing instruments?
So they haven't had music until I came last year. They'd had kind of a beginning band program for the high schoolers, and that teacher had to leave in the middle of the year. So the kids were very flustered, I think, by the lack of a music program. So I came in and started building the choir. And in that found that we had resources to do a guitar class and to do a ukulele class in combination there. And because my background's in piano, we had several keyboards, electric digital keyboards donated as well. So we kind of split the year out and do all of those. So my main emphasis is in choir. And then the instrument, I have 2 classes of those instruments as well. And as far as our classes, like right now we're scheduled for 3 performances throughout the year.
And how easy is it to get a choir together?
At this point, it's pretty easy for me. I think that, the kids are rostered into a class and I just divide them into vocal sections and off we go. We hit the ground running. So that's been, 27 years in the making where I can just say, okay, here's what we're doing. The guitar class has been very much focusing on the fundamentals, learning how to read music. And many of these students they've always learned by rote. So learning how to read it's a new language.
And I spoke to a conductor who conducts the youth orchestra, and we spoke about the fact that it's of course about the music, but it's almost as if there are so many other things involved, like there's getting together as a group and belonging and working together and so on. So is that something that you also promote, in schools, in like the school where you are, so that to get children together?
Oh, absolutely. We spend a lot of our first rehearsals just simply building ensemble, like just meeting each other and seeing, there's common interests across grades 9 through 12, even though there's such a big age gap. And that building community within, Welcome to your life. There's no turning back. Even while we sleep, we will find you acting on your best behavior. Turn your back on Mother Nature. Everybody wants to rule the world.
also wrote that you believe that performing arts give children the skills to take on to their careers. And can you just talk about that?
Absolutely. Well, that's my passion. I don't believe that every child that comes into my room to sing or to play the guitar needs to go on and become professional, although I would love it if they do, and several have. My goal is to make sure that they have an appreciation for beauty, and that they can recognize it. And to do that, sometimes you just have to slow down and focus. And so I train my students how to listen closely. And that's something that I fear, I'm fearful of this generation being bombarded with so much information that they get lost in it. So we spend time unpacking how to actually actively listen. Because otherwise they're missing so much important information, but important beauty and art as well. And that whole premise really comes from my involvement with the Kennedy Center for Performing Arts in DC. I was lucky enough early in my teaching career to get to be a part of a cadre of teachers who got arts integration training through the Kennedy Center. And that really opened my eyes as to focusing my intent and my goals, and it gave me a how to do this. It gave me a very good vehicle to communicate my ideas. That, yeah, our children need to be discernible. They need to have that art of judging and be able to do that with solid evidence and with practice.
Mm-hmm. Well, I spoke to a ballet dancer a while ago, and he's also now a ballet teacher. But he used to dance. He used to be a professional dancer in the Royal Ballet. And he talked about the transferable skills. You know, the skills that he realized after he left the ballet how many skills he has to just apply to everything else that he's doing. You know.
Yeah, so that again is from the Kennedy Center. We talk about the 5 skills and tools of the actor, but then I transform that into performing arts, that you have the control of your body and you have control of your mind and you have imagination, but you also develop these cooperative skills and collaboration, that you can work as a team. And we actually build practice working in small groups, because how many times are employers given out, this department will do this and such a task. And that's, if you can't work in a group, but we don't really have a structure to practice that. But the performing arts are perfect for it. So, we talk about, are there any careers where you're not going to need these 5 skills, where you're not going to need to control your body? Well, everybody has to do that, and you're not going to need to focus. Everybody needs to be able to concentrate. So yeah, those skills that are performing arts skills are absolutely transferable. And I think I make it a point to say, like, you're not just wasting your time in choir. This is perfect transition into your adult life.
Drama students from a high school in South Africa, and they were about, I would say, between 14 and 16 years old. And I was so surprised how they could already see at their age how taking drama as a subject would benefit them in careers that they were thinking of doing. And I think there were only one or two who said, well, I want to become an actress or an actor. The rest all wanted to do other things. And I was so amazed at their way of thinking already at that age. And I wondered if it came about because of, taking drama as a subject, thinking in a different way about things, and could see then ahead in the future a little bit.
Oh, sure. I would hope so. I would hope that the skills that we break down in rehearsal are something that they'll carry forward.
Do you think the education systems over the world see the import or realize the importance? Because you hear many schools, really the children are under such pressure to achieve in maths and sciences. And yet, if you think of all the benefits that pursuing an art form in a school situation bring, that there should not be more focus, and that education systems should allow for students to have that as subjects alongside sciences and maths.
I absolutely believe that they should. And I think that we'll see the pendulum swing again. I think that there was a big movement in the 60s and 70s for the liberal arts. And then, especially in this country, we had a shift away. In the 80s, we had a shift away towards the math and sciences. And absolutely, the future is definitely a technical future. But the problem solving and the creative problem solving that comes out of working in a performing arts group, that's what our skill set needs to be focused on. And I don't think that it's taught. It's not integral to the sciences to creative problem solve. It can be, but I think that the rigidity and the structure of focusing only on those STEM classes is very inhibiting. And I think our kids need to be able to think their way out of a paper bag, and they've been tied to screens. So, to see that there's art all around us, but also to create that community. Again, it comes back to what problems could the world solve if we just spoke clearly to one another and we're able to articulate our emotions and separate those emotions from our facts. And I think that comes innately in the performing arts.
And how do you think parents should also be educated? Because you hear also many times about with young people saying, and this is also what I heard at that school, that the students who took art, saying that my parents don't want me to study art because there's no money or there's not a secure job prospects. But yet, if we could make parents understand this, that it's not just to become artists, but that it's about the skills, about developing those skills.
Well, I think that advocacy is always on our minds in education. And the best way to educate our parents is to put them in an audience and let them see the product. What would be even better would be have them be part of the process, but I'm not sure that our schools are set up in such a way to do that. I think that, again, the pendulum is swinging, and my parents in this community want it. They want more arts. They want more music. They want the dance. Yeah, they do. And I think some of that is the area geographically of where we're at. We have a high percentage of migrant families. We also have there's Denver is where I'm at, and it's the melting pot right now. It used to be New York City, and I don't know that it is anymore. I think that the cultural influx has shifted west, and our parents want to celebrate our students. They want to see them joyful.
That's amazing to hear. I'm so happy to hear that you feel so positive about that, that because a lot of people feel very frustrated because schools are less and less able to support the
Survive.
arts, and you hear that music teachers lose their jobs, and so it's wonderful to hear that it's there.
Well, and here it was student driven. The students asked for a music program. That was their number one request the year before I was hired, was please bring music back.
Really?
Isn't that wonderful?
That's amazing. Yeah.
So I'm doing my best.
Yeah. Well, I think it sounds as though you're the best teacher to be there to do that. Yeah, definitely. But tell me now, what are your wishes for the future? What would you like to see happen there where you are at the school?
I would like to see more numbers. It's because of the things you spoke about, the emphasis on math and science. And here as well, we are 85% Spanish speaking. English is a second language. So the focus is literacy, which I love. However, if we don't have joyful moments around the curriculum within the school day, there will be nothing to sing and dance about. So we need to make sure that there's room in the day. We need to allow for that, for this scheduling, and for the priority really to be that every child gets to have this elective option, which they do a good job of. It's just trying to get it all fit in.
That's great. Ready? Yeah.
But now, explain to me, why is Spanish the first language there?
We have a high population of newcomers. So we have a lot of Central America and South America, as well as Mexican immigrants.
Okay. But isn't art also a wonderful way to bring people together? Because
it is.
So sort of crossing cultures and learning from each other.
Absolutely. It is the perfect medium for learning. I mean, what else is culture, right? It's the art, it's the customs. And so to broaden that scope is my goal.
I just also spoke a while ago to a South African dancer who lives in the UK and who actually takes traditional African dance and combines it with contemporary dance in the UK. Right. And I think that is so amazing how excited people get to be able to do that. And you think, well, that's amazing, because now you learn by dancing, you learn from a different culture, and I think things like that, these fusions and these influences, that is so great, because we live in the world has become smaller. So like you and I can talk now, but it's also culturally, we can get so much more information from each other.
Exactly. I have several guitar students who are teaching me this style. It's called bachata, which is more of a modern take on Mexican, traditional kind of Mexican guitar, but then set to more current pop music. Like it's all over TikTok.
Wow.
So it's so fun for me to be continually learning too.
Yeah. Oh, but that's wonderful. But that's the joy of teaching, isn't it? Yeah. You learn from your students.
Yes, indeed. They definitely teach me more.
Oh, okay. So Jenn, are you also interested in playing more instruments?
Well, yeah, of course. It's can I find the time?
Okay, yeah.
Yes, I'd love to learn the strings. Like I said, the violin. I feel drawn to learning the cello, so that'll be my next.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I spoke to a musician who plays the viola da gamba, and she's a cellist and she plays the viola da gamba. I never even knew that instrument existed, so I learned something as well.
There you go. There's always something new.
Yeah. But Jenn, thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely, my
You're
pleasure.
doing such great work. I was really so excited to come across your profile on LinkedIn and saw what you're doing. And I think this is really what I'm trying to achieve with talking to artists and seeing if we can not, show that how important it is and how many wonderful skills you can um, acquire from just pursuing an art form, and giving our children the chance also to express themselves in different art forms, So
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
It's every single day. It's my new like addiction to come
Oh,
and see
okay.
what are they going to give me today. It's going to be something new every day. The breath, the air in the space is new by the minute. And that's something that's unique, I think, to the performing arts is we can capture it on video, but we can't ever breathe the same air.
No.
Never again.
And I also many times you hear a musician talk about the teacher who inspired them or the teacher
Mhm.
who said something and that inspired them. And you are then in this position where you do that, where you inspire people and children, and you never know who would, like you say, who would pursue a career in arts because of the enthusiasm you have.
Mhm. That's my hope, right? The hope is to be the person who listened a little longer or was able to react in a compassionate way. Because I think that's what art models that for us. And so, if we're going to be the human beings that we hope to be and that we hope to raise, that's the vehicle to do it.
Well, Jenn, I'm going to keep watching out Jenn in Denver and see
Okay.
what you come up with.
I love it. Love it. Love it. Thank you so much. Thank you
It's
for
a
reaching
great
out.
pleasure. It's a great pleasure. No, it's lovely talking to you. It's really and really it's if I hear people like you doing this work, I just think, okay, there's hope. It's
There
going to
is hope.
happen sometime. Yeah.